Oh, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. Um, Last night was quite a night. Last night was the first exclusive interview of Margot Anderson, who was sentenced to a month in prison and a year probation a little more than a year ago. And she has begun telling the truth about the persecution, and it's quite a story, of her. She was the most popular elected official in Northwest Florida, probably, but certainly in Bay County. And right after Hurricane Michael, which hit in late 2018, she was targeted by the local establishment. And she has begun telling the true story about the incredible persecution against her and James Finch. And I'm going to share with you parts of the interview last night in front of a live studio audience at Roberts Hall. What a night. And the video I'm going to show you is, I'm really proud of it. I think you're going to love it. She's going to talk about what happened to her. Also, I want to show you, it's very brief. This morning, the sheriff's choice, the installment after they tore away a duly elected mayor of Lin Haven. And she was indicted, of course, August 19th of 2020. And it was a long ordeal. And the FBI and Sheriff Ford on TV, big giant TV press conferences promised that they were going to uproot widespread corruption after Hurricane Michael. After all, somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 million of FEMA money came through to clean up and fix Bay County after the hurricane. Does it look like it? Does it look like that much money has been spent to improve the roads, to fix the roads, to do all of the things? Or does it look like probably not? Boxes and boxes and treasure troves of evidence were collected, especially after the early August 2021 raid search warrant execution of GAC contractors. The search warrant affidavit, based on Sheriff Ford's investigations, the FBI told a judge that Bay County is more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans. But Sheriff Tommy Ford arrested nobody, couldn't find any of the more corrupt. They know. We've got the investigation notes. We've got the FBI 302 investigation notes. We know what they know. We know that some of the judges got pole barns. We know the confidential informants told the FBI all kinds of stuff. We know that many people, to include Dan Russell, the former commissioner, and many, many others, including, I understand, and if I'm wrong, he can correct me, Sheriff Tommy Ford actually did have their homes cleared. Mayor Margot Anderson did not. You talk about projecting and accusing somebody else of what you really did. This was a masterclass. So in the aftermath of all of that, these incredible interviews are scheduled to come out. And I think you're going to find them fascinating, complete with documentation. So if she says it, we'll show it. Because, and if I almost said, if I catch her saying something that's not true, I'll tell you. I've already done that part. I already vetted her. I already read through all the stuff. I went to all the hearings and the trials. I couldn't believe it. Well, you were with me. All right, let me thank some sponsors first so that we can get right into this, because I don't want to interrupt once we get started. So thank you to those who sponsor the show and help me bring you what you don't get anywhere else.
Strong, effective leadership. 3 words that could mean the difference between prison and your freedom. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, I want to start with the very short beginning, the short video of this morning's Lin Haven Commission meeting. Used to be that Margot Anderson was the mayor and ran the meetings and treated the residents with respect. Now you've got Jesse Nelson, the mayor's choice after they ripped Mayor Anderson away, and the sheriff's choice, Jesse Nelson. He is the weirdest dude, and he always makes me laugh. He was so strange today when a resident who goes, actually a citizen, she doesn't reside in Lin Haven, but she's certainly from this area, and she has taken a great interest in what goes on around here and makes the effort to come here and speak and address the commission. And so Christy McElroy goes up to speak, and Jesse Nelson, the mayor, does not like that she's handing stuff out. So he starts giving orders. Now, remember what I told you about Jesse Nelson? When he talks real quiet and real slow, he's furious. He's mad. He's trying to control, but he's acting like he's not. He's acting like you are crazy. He talks real slow and real. And so he starts doing this. But Christy McElroy is not deterred at all. And so then he just takes her time away because he didn't get that opportunity to upset her. See, if you get upset when Jesse starts doing that to you, he gets off on it. It's like orgasmic glee. The guy is weird. But when you don't do that, he just will take your time away, make you sit down. Watch. All right, this was this morning's meeting.
Before I get started, I do.
Watch Jesse Nelson, the mayor, in the middle.
If you'll give those to our city attorney, please. If you'll give all of those to our city attorney, please. Yes, if you will give all those to our city attorney, please. Call to order.
Oh, she didn't get mad.
That's your public commentary time. All right, moving on to the mayor. Yes.
Are you going to up here? I would just like to say the victim of Ricky Ramey was an African-American man.
So what she's talking about is the hit and run crash of their police chief, who is a criminal defendant, that they still are defending, that they still are. Lin Haven has a police chief who had to turn in his badge and his gun, but since they're all in on the corruption together, it's like mutual assured destruction. They're afraid if they fire the vindictive and vulgar and constantly the chronically in trouble police chief, Ricky Ramey, that he's going to rat them out. See, and he would, you're damn right he would. So they're all protecting him. But the person who he crashed his truck into in the parking lot after leaving the bar, the police chief, Ricky Ramey, the video showed it all. The guy who got his car destroyed was a black citizen who nobody has ever stood up for or talked about except me and Christy McElroy here. So nobody gives a damn about the victim because all they care about are the politically connected. Now, a couple of meetings ago, Mayor Jesse Nelson said, nobody likes me because I'm black. I'm not saying that, but I'm kind of saying that. Now, nobody likes you because you're a jackass, and nobody likes you because you're the strangest dude. You're the biggest fraud. You treat people like garbage. You run around with the biggest scumbags in the world, like Arthur Cullen, the campaign manager, the dumpster diver for Sheriff Tommy Ford, and you think you're connected. You might be, but I don't know how you look yourself in the mirror. So she's calling him out. The victim was an African-American, and nobody gives a flip because nobody cares about minorities around here. I have confronted Panama City Beach City Council. It was 2018, I believe, maybe 2019, when I discovered under oath in a deposition, when I deposed Hector Che Solis, he would not deny that in Texas, he wrote "go home" N-words on a black family's home. That was under oath. He wouldn't deny it. His attorney quit 3 weeks later. WMBB knew about it. Everybody knew about it, but nobody, not the local NAACP, none of my black friends, none of my liberal friends, nobody would go. There should have been 500 people surrounding City Hall demanding that racist is pulled off of that council, but nobody did it. Christy McElroy's doing it, but Mayor Nelson doesn't want to hear it. You have lost your time because you walked along here and handed us evidence.
And I want to thank you all for meeting with us, meaning the 4 commissioners.
Thank you.
I
Call to order.
invite the mayor and the city manager to do the same thing.
It's your
I
time,
think
Ms.
you'll find it's
McElroy. Thank you.
educational. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Moving on to the mayor's report.
That's what you have. That's what you have now that Sheriff Ford and the rest of them ripped the real mayor, persecuted her, 64 counts. So let me get right into this. I want to go right into the interview that you're going to see. You know, it is election season. You know, the election is what, 9 days away? Something like that. It's on the 20th. Early voting is underway. And so, of course, I want to share with you this paid political ad so you know there is another alternative to Sheriff Tommy Ford.
You lead by example. You are beyond reproach with your character, with your work ethic, and how you deal with situations. Deputies are going to make mistakes, but the community needs to know that they feel comfortable enough where they can come forward with a concern, listen to them, figure out the problem. If there is a problem, you correct it and you fix it.
Vote Andy Hussar for sheriff on or before August 20th. All right, here is Margot Anderson last night at a...
So when I gave this to the sheriff...
Hold on, let's not jump the gun. I'm talking to me. Okay, so this is Margot Anderson, exclusive first interview, telling the true story. This is April 1st. She is describing April 1st of 2019, when she and James Finch discovered that the late Derwin White's nephew, Mickey White, had billed the city 5 or 6 checks, $5 million, overbilled, and they were scheming along with Michael White, the city manager, and others. Probably Vicky Gaynor, but she was not indicted. But that's my opinion based on what I saw. She's the one who signed the checks. She's the one who lied about everybody else and got protection, including me, by the way. Lied about me to the FBI. So this is what you've never heard before. There's a part in here I didn't know. Mayor Anderson is describing April 1st when she went to Sheriff Tommy Ford, and she brought with her the trusted Assistant Chief of Police, who she trusted at the time, Ricky Ramey. Ricky Ramey, she trusted him. Ricky Ramey's good friends with Sheriff Tommy Ford. And a very strange thing happened when they went, she wanted a witness, when they went to tell Sheriff Tommy Ford that there is corruption inside of Lin Haven. April 1st, 2019. Listen to this.
So when I gave this to the sheriff, I told him, I said, I am not accusing anyone of anything, but there are 6 checks written here for almost $5 million, and there are no invoices and there's no purchase orders, and they're large amounts, and they've not been approved as far as I know by anyone. Here it is. So at that moment, Ricky had a backpack by his feet, and he, oh, by the way, and he pulls it up and he said, I've got $30,000 in this backpack that Michael White asked me to hold for him. So I've never heard about the $30,000. Ricky's never mentioned it before, but suddenly, because I'm going to the sheriff, Ricky's got a backpack with $30,000 he wants to turn in.
Where'd the money go? Wait a minute. Where'd the money go? I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you that part again in a moment. But here's what I'm wondering. So she says, "Hey, can you go with me?" Because she trusted her assistant police chief, Ricky Ramey, and we're going to go talk to the sheriff. I know you know the sheriff very well. And $5 million has been billed by Mickey White, the nephew of late Derwin White, president of GAC Contractors, who just started a company and was getting a big money, big jobs when he didn't even have the proper licenses to do the work. So she didn't know. She didn't expect. But why would when the three of them are sitting there, she and assistant police chief at the time, Ricky Ramey, telling the sheriff, why would I want to know your theory? Because I don't know why the hell he would do this. He picks up a backpack and says he has $30,000 cash in this backpack. Where did that money go? Did Sheriff Ford seize it and put it in the evidence locker? I don't know that answer. But what would be, and I'm going to look at your answer, your comments. What could be the possible I'm going to let the sheriff know about the 30 grand of cash in this backpack. What? Okay. You got 30 grand. Yeah, let's tell the sheriff. Ramey didn't say that. He just surprised her. Why? What would be Ramey's motivation to just surprise her? Is Ramey saying, "Hey, need you to know about this. I was going to tell you anyway"? That's one theory. I don't think that's it. I think they both already knew about that. The sheriff and his friend. I'm just going to call him Chief Ramey. Or was it a tribute to Sheriff Ford? Say Sheriff Ford didn't know about it. Was Ricky Ramey offering a tribute? Don't get me in trouble, bro. Let's go fishing again. They did after. Or was it my theory? And it's just a theory. There's no reason for Ricky Ramey to do that. He could have done it privately. He could have done it. He could have not done it. I don't know. He could have told her before he did it. My theory is it was the two of them, Chief Ramey and Sheriff Tommy Ford, sending a message to Mayor Margot Anderson. Hey, look, I can hold a backpack of $30,000 cash to the sheriff and nothing's going to happen. So be careful, lady. Be careful running your gums out there. I think it was a message, but I don't know. Sheriff Ford's never answered the question. There's a hell of a lot of money, like the $5 million, which really was more like 1.5 million after the work was done and the stuff was bought. But take Ashbridge, for example. The FBI and the sheriff's office claim that the National Hurricane Debris Hauler, Ashbridge, who came in here and hired GAC Contractors, Derwin White, to clear debris. The investigations show Sheriff Ford and his public trust unit say, and told me, public trust unit did, the head of it, along with the number 2 at the sheriff's office, told me just what I saw in the documents, that Ashbridge, the big national company, kicked back $15 or $16 million to GAC Contractors, Derwin White. But then Derwin White died of COVID at the age of 55. And so Sheriff Ford and the FBI said, damn. Well, there goes that investigation. But where's the 15 million? Where's the 16 million? What about Ashbridge? Sheriff Ford, FBI, did you guys not investigate this? And the FBI and the search warrant affidavit on August 3rd, 2021, tell the judge, hey, we need to search GAC Contractors. And as part of the evidence, indicate to the judge in the search warrant affidavit that Bay County is more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans. And the primary reason was because Ashbrit, the big national company that hired subcontractor Derwin White, GAC contractors, that Ashbrit had kicked back $15 or $16 million to Derwin White. Sheriff Ford, what about going after Ashbrit? I was only helping with the investigation, Bernie. Oh, well, did you tell the FBI? The FBI already knew. I read the stuff. Why did you guys let Ashbrit get away? Why did you guys let Ashbrit get away? Where'd the money go? If it was kicked back to Derwin White, did you ever get it back? Was there restitution is what I'm asking. Where'd the money go? Does anybody else wonder this stuff, or is it just me? So let's take a listen again at the end of this, because it is unreal, isn't it? Why would Chief Ramey, Assistant Chief Ramey at the time, why would he surprise her when she blows the whistle on corruption and hold up a backpack and say, I got $30,000 from Michael White? Michael White, city manager, asked me to hold. Where do you get $30,000 in cash money? Yet another sack of cash. Watch, listen.
$1,000. Ricky's never mentioned it before.
Hold on. Right about here, I suppose.
White asked me to hold for it.
Sorry, I didn't go back far enough. Right about here.
And he, oh, by the way, and he pulls it up and he said, I've got $30,000 in this backpack that Michael White asked me to hold for it. So I've never heard about the $30,000. Ricky's never mentioned it before, but suddenly, because I'm going to the sheriff, Ricky's got a backpack with $30,000 he wants to turn in.
Where did the money go? I mean, what? All right. Now I'm going to show you another part of last night's exclusive interview with Margot Anderson, who is telling the true story. This next clip is 7 minutes long. And she answers the burning question. If the FBI and if the Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the federal prosecutors, if they dropped all 64 charges against you, and they did, they dropped all 64 charges against her, then why, pray tell, did you plead guilty? She's going to answer that right after this.
After Mr. Bassford got elected, he employed former State Attorney Hess, paid him in the range, and you can correct me, somewhere around $145,000 a year to have one case, which he lost at least twice. I do not believe that's a good steward of our money.
That was a good effort and a good expenditure of money, and he didn't make anywhere close to $140,000. I think.
The most important race. That's the top. That would be the top. That is the top prosecutor in 6 counties. If you live in Bay County, Gulf, Calhoun, Holmes, Jackson, Washington, am I forgetting any? Then that is the top elected prosecutor. Eric Garman is, Larry Bassford is the establishment choice. He's got all the money, a bunch of money in the campaign coffers. But if you want integrity in the prosecutor's office, you'll vote for Eric Garman. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at, this is going to be something. This is Why Did You Plead Guilty? Margot Anderson's story.
The conspiracy charge that said that James Finch and I had entered into some type of conspiracy for his work in Lin Haven. And the second charge was a bribery charge stating that he had given me a motorhome in exchange for this conspiracy that I had entered into with him. So those were the 2 charges that were left. And the plea, there was no deal, because what was sort of hinted at was that maybe because they were getting me to plead guilty that I was going to turn as a witness against James Finch, which is generally what a plea deal is about.
Mhm.
So there was no plea deal. There was just a plea. There was a guilty plea. The news media also said that I pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. It may sound like semantics, but law is all about semantics. It's all about words. It's all about sentences. I pled guilty to the charge of a lie to the FBI. And if you've watched the news in recent months, it's very similar to the case of General Flynn. General Flynn thought that he was helping with an investigation, which is what I thought that I was doing, and we'll get to that as we tell the story. But the night the FBI came to my house, they did not tell me that I was under oath. They did not tell me that what I said could be used against me. And they certainly didn't tell me that just because I said something that was the truth, that they could later say it was a lie and it would become a lie. So I pled guilty.
What is interesting, Margot, is the FBI came knocking on your door August, I believe it was August.
November. And we'll have to go back to that to get
I was jumping the gun. That was another time.
on
I might
the
be thinking of a
chronology.
different date.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So back to the guilty plea. 2 weeks before Mr. Finch and I were to go to trial, they called my attorneys and said they wanted to talk with us, that they had a proffer meaning a deal. I didn't even want to go to the meeting. I said, no, absolutely not. The lawyer said we needed to go to hear what they had to say. So we went. We had all these charges dropped. And so what they told me, and I'll just quote him because I've written the book and I know exactly what he said. Assistant U.S. Attorney Justin Keene looked at me across the table with my two attorneys as witnesses. And he said, you know, juries are unpredictable, Miss Anderson. And you're facing on any one of these counts, the 2 counts, you're facing up to 20 years. That's the charge. Of course, we wouldn't go for 20 years, but we would go for 150 to 188 months, which if you add that up is about 12 years. And I'm 68 years old. So you do the math there. And then they said, but if you will plead guilty to a false statement to the FBI, we will drop those 2 charges. We will offer you 0 to 6 months. And with a 2-point reduction, they have a point scale, with a 2-point reduction, which would take it down to 4. And you might not serve any time at all. And a year of probation at most. That's what we would ask the judge to do. If you
Now remember this, please. She was initially charged with 64 counts based on Sheriff Ford's investigation with the FBI. 64 counts of public corruption. Sheriff Ford and the FBI and the Justice Department wanted to put Margot Anderson in prison for 1,050 years. Sheriff Ford, his public trust unit, doing most of the legwork for the FBI. They wanted to put her in prison for 1,050 years. They were down to the final 2 charges. They were bribery charges, and they were known as Section 666 charges, a bribery charge that requires no evidence, only, quote, a wink and a nod is sufficient for a conviction. So now she's down to 2 charges, if you wonder why she took a plea deal. And if she is found if she's found guilty, it's about 12 years in prison, and they don't need any evidence. Let me tell you something about this Section 666 for bribery charge. At the time, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal, this part of the United States, allowed people to be charged with bribery with no evidence. A wink and a nod was sufficient for a conviction. Half of the country would not allow that because it's outrageous. Only about 5 or 6 weeks ago, the United States Supreme Court issued an opinion prohibiting any part of the United States now, nowhere in the United States, Can somebody be charged on such a bullshit charge as a section 666, wink and a nod, no evidence required charge? These were the final two charges on Margot Anderson, that they wanted to put her in prison for 12 years. And they told her, if a jury happens to find you not guilty, we will be outside the courtroom and we will re-indict you on your way home, and you'll be doing this for another few years. And if you take the deal and you say, I met Mickey White in October, I told you I met him in December, that's why she's, quote, a convicted felon. That's what Sheriff Tommy Ford and his friends like to run around saying. She's a convicted felon because they did that to her. That section 666 bribery charge that doesn't require any evidence is the only charge that James Finch faced 2 trials over. The first one was a hung jury, but they really wanted James Finch. So he was tried in front of a jury of his peers a second time on that same section 666, bribery with no evidence required charge. That jury, the second time around, found him not guilty very quickly, and he was acquitted. After all that, after being indicted 3 times, Margot Anderson was indicted 4 times, and they threatened to indict her a 5th time if a jury found her not guilty of this section 666 bribery charge. That is now no longer permitted to be brought against anybody in the United States because it's outrageous. Okay? So that's what she's talking about here.
Plead guilty. And so my 2 attorneys had told me to say nothing in this meeting, that I was not to say. I have not said anything for 4 years. I said, say nothing. And I had a yellow pad that I brought with me to write on, just to keep busy. And I wrote no in big letters, and the attorney put his hand over the big no that I wrote. And the other U.S. attorney never would make eye contact with me as Mr. Keene spoke. And then he said, you don't have to make your decision today. You can think about it. This was on Thursday. He said, well, you can wait until Monday, and we're 2 weeks away from trial. And he said, but you're going to be facing 2 trials. He said, because if you and Mr. Finch walk out of this trial on February 27th, acquitted, as soon as you come out onto the courthouse steps, we're going to bring back the charges against you for ECS and world claim, which we'll get to later, and we will indict you again. I had been indicted 4 times at this point. It was almost 5 years of my life since this all started. And I was just so upset and so angry, thinking that I had no reason not to believe them. And people will say, well, and actually when I was in court, the judge said, were you coerced? Were you threatened? So I'm not going to say that out loud. I was not coerced or threatened because I knew what I was doing. And they also told me exactly what they were going to do. And I had no reason to doubt them, since they had indicted me 4 times already. If they were to have indicted me again, assuming that James and I were acquitted on the 27th, I would be looking at another 2 or 3 years probably of fighting them with the attorneys. And I want to say very publicly, I wanted to say it at the beginning, James Finch and I have been friends since childhood. And no one counted on him standing beside me the way he did. He's the best friend that anyone could ever have in this life. And he spent almost $1.5 million standing beside me and defending me. And people made all kinds of ugly comments about that. But the last month before we were to go to trial, just so you know what it costs to fight the federal government when they come after you, my legal bills for February of 2023 were almost $250,000 that Mr. Finch paid for me.
In 1 month. It was 1.5 million total, but $250,000 in 1 month, when they were trying to still go after her for the section 666 bribery with no evidence charge. It was the final 2 charges left on her, and the final charge left on James Finch, for which he was tried twice.
Me. And I could not see this going any further. I had reached a point mentally, emotionally, my family, I can't even describe it to you, 5 years of it. And they told me not to discuss it with anyone. My attorney said, don't go talk to you. Don't tell James Finch about this. Don't tell anyone about this. This is your decision. Well, as soon as I got in the car, I called James Finch. All the way to Panama City. I talked about it to him and I said, this is what they're dealing. I was yelling on the phone. I was so angry and so upset. And we talked about it. And I will tell you that he told me if I wanted to keep fighting, that he would stand beside me. But he said to me, you need to be out of this. He said, if they're giving you a way out, my attorneys had already told me, they said, this is probably the best that's going to happen.
If you find this compelling, interesting, did WMBB ever share this with you, or I was trying to, or the News Herald or WJHG or anybody in the whole world? The Beacon of Bay County did. And by the way, the Beacon of Bay County on Facebook has a live stream of this entire event that you can actually hear. Mine was horrific. Mine, you cannot hear it. Mine sucks. Don't watch mine. Watch the Beacon of Bay County's live stream and you'll see all this. But this is footage that if you want more people to know about this, you got to share it. I mean, you got to like it. You got to share it. I wish I had a bigger reach. I'm sorry that I don't, but it's kind of up to all of us to get the word out. And to my, I don't know what the word is. I'm just thrilled that so many of you have been sharing these, and there are a lot more scheduled that will be coming out so that you can learn the rest of the story, because it's amazing.
And I started thinking about, I'm 68 years old. I have grandchildren. I have a husband who's 78 years old. And I had already lost my mom, and I'll talk about that again. 7 months after I was indicted, my mom had a very severe and unexpected heart attack. I lost my mom in this, and it was devastating. So I prayed about it, and I prayed about it, and I thought about it, and all I could think about, like all of us think, is, oh, won't the media have a heyday with this? The mayor has pled guilty. She's been guilty all along.
Former Lin Haven Mayor Margot Anderson has pled guilty to one count of making a false statement to a federal agency. It was a straight-up guilty plea. As a result of that plea, Anderson could face up to 5 years in prison. She's also prohibited of talking to her co-defendant, Phoenix construction owner James Finch, but she will get that RV back that the FBI confiscated.
Did you hear the glee in Tom Lewis's voice? That's the news director for WMBB that was in on, along with Arthur Cullen, the campaign manager, the dumpster diver right now for Sheriff Tommy Ford's campaign, and along with Tommy Ham, the county commissioner who's running for re-election. They were all in on setting up Margot Anderson. Now, Tommy Ham wants you to vote for him August 20th, now or before August 20th. Or on August 20th. Tommy Ham doesn't belong anywhere near a government position. And you have an alternative. You can vote for Ron Keel. Here is another payday. You're not going to believe the rest of this story. Also, you're going to see not only Margot Anderson telling you what happened, but you'll see James Finch's reactions. You're going to hear from James Finch also telling you what happened behind the scenes. What's crazy? Well, there's a couple of things that are crazy. One of them is that nobody in law enforcement, the FBI, Homeland Security, because remember, FEMA money falls under Homeland Security. It's our money, but when FEMA money is stolen, Homeland Security, it's their jurisdiction. So I don't know why Homeland Security is not more curious. Imagine Homeland Security, how many more spying devices you could buy. with the money that was stolen. 15, 16 million kickback from Ashbrit, the national company that hired GAC. Ashbrit, Sheriff Tommy Ford and his investigators, and the FBI told a judge that largely because of Ashbrit and GAC contractors Derwin White. That's what they told the judge in 2021. Isn't that something? Ashbrit. No curiosity. But here's another thing. Here's another thing that eats me up. It's kind of like mutual assured destruction, because according to Sheriff Ford himself at the press conferences, there were quite a few public officials around here who had their hands in the collective FEMA cookie jar. He didn't say it quite like that, but you remember those promises, right? The investigation is far-reaching and ongoing, and we're going to clean up this town. You remember all that? Well, they said that. They got the evidence. They did a search warrant on GAC contractors. I believe it was August 4th, 2021. Spent all day, led by Sheriff Ford's public trust team, Major Jimmy Stanford. All of them spent all day in there. I talked to them because at the time I thought they were really doing it. And then they took all that evidence, put it in boxes, and put it in under lock and seal. Why would they do that? They know the names of the people involved in inflating the prices and extending the cleanup after Hurricane Michael and lining their pockets. They know the names. They've got all the evidence. Why did they not ever do what they said they were going to do? Mutual assured destruction is my theory, because if you get one, they'll squeal on the rest of them. So most of the public officials around here, in my opinion, know about it. Many had their hands in the cookie jar. But there are some who were appalled by it. But you know what those people did? Nothing. Not a damn thing. One of my favorite newspaper men from the 1930s and 40s was an old crusty columnist by the name of H.L. Mencken. Look up H.L. Mencken. He would tap on that typewriter and smoke his cigar, and he'd go off on politicians and the corrupt. And he didn't hold back. There was a lynching. I believe it was in Atlanta, but there was a lynching. And the whole town knew that this wasn't the guy. The whole town knew that this was wrong. And nobody did anything about it. Here's what he said. H.L. Mencken. Not a single bigwig came forward in the emergency, though the whole town knew what was afoot. Any one of a score of such bigwigs might have halted the crime, if only by threatening to denounce its perpetrators. But none spoke. And in Bay County, none spoke. But Bernie, it's dangerous. Who are you talking to? Tell me about it. I know it's dangerous. But if you just leave it up to one or two or three people to tell what you know, you're complicit. But when everybody links arms and says enough is enough, we don't let this happen to mothers and fathers and neighbors, anybody. That's what eats me up. I get phone calls. I get emails. Hey, Bernie, can you tell on this person? This is going on over here, and we really need to say, get the word out, but we're a little too scared to do it here at FHP or wherever. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just, anywhere. It could be anywhere. And no, you do it. I mean, my God, what if they had asked you to storm the beaches of Normandy? Yeah, but Bernie, I would be scared. Yeah, I know. No one's asking you to do that. All that God Almighty is asking you to do now is to tell the truth and not let your innocent neighbors be persecuted this way. But none spoke. These are the people you sit at church with. I don't know if they're giving or taking when the bowl goes around, to be honest with you. But I don't want to get into that right now. I do want to, though, thank those of you who helped me do this, who throw a tip in the tip jar. It matters. It helps a lot. Thank you for those of you, as little as $5 a month. Patreon.com is where you do that. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's easy, it's anonymous, and you can quit at any time. And there's no better $5 a month. I know that's true, that you can spend on the internet. That's one thing I know for sure. Also, thanking another sponsor, The Unknown Patriot. I appreciate your support so much. And you know, I've got a lot more coming for you.